Dr. Ethan Crawford's fist slammed the patient chart so violently that the nurse's station shook. "Get out!" His voice wasn't loud. It was lethal. Maya Washington stood frozen, her dark hands trembling around a medication tray. "I said, get out of my ER!" He stepped closer, his breath hot on her face. "You nearly killed that patient with your incompetence. Those shaking hands, that pathetic hesitation. You don't belong here. You're a liability." He ripped her ID badge from her scrubs. "Security's coming. Pack your things, nurse. You're done." Behind him, the entire staff watched in silence. Nobody defended her. Nobody moved. Maya's eyes stayed down, her jaw clenched, as Crawford smiled. Cold, victorious, cruel. He had no idea the woman he just fired had saved more lives in war zones than he'd seen in his entire career. He had no idea that in 6 hours, a dying SEAL commander would arrive and recognize the incompetent old nurse as the combat surgeon who'd once held his heart inside his chest while bullets screamed overhead. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Stay with us until the very end, because this story will change how you see the people around you forever. And comment below with your city so we can see how far this message travels across the world. Now, let's begin. The fluorescent lights of Mercy General Hospital's emergency department buzzed with that particular frequency that lived somewhere between a hum and a scream. Maya had been counting. 3 weeks, 2 days, 7 hours, and 14 minutes since she'd walked through these doors. Every single second had felt like walking barefoot across broken glass, while people watched and placed bets on when she'd finally bleed out. "Trauma incoming, 2 minutes." The intercom crackled to life. "MVA, multiple casualties." Maya's body moved on instinct, reaching for the trauma bay preparation checklist she'd memorized years ago in a different life, but a hand landed on her shoulder. Hard. "Where do you think you're going?" Dr. Jessica Romano's perfectly manicured nails dug into Maya's scrubs. Romano was 32, blonde, beautiful in that sharp-edged way that cut anyone who got too close. "We've got this. I'm certified for trauma," Maya said quietly. "I'm sure you are." Romano's smile was all veneered teeth and zero warmth. "I'm also sure that the supply closet is a disaster. Someone knocked over an entire shelf of 4x4s, not the 2x2s, the 4x4s. Be a dear and handle that. I'd hate for JCAHO to show up and find our storage non-compliant." It wasn't a request. Maya nodded, her throat tight, and turned toward the supply closet, while behind her, the real nurses, the ones who belonged, rushed toward the ambulance bay. The ones who mattered. The ones whose hands didn't shake. Inside the supply closet, surrounded by boxes of gauze and sterile packaging, Maya allowed herself exactly 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seconds to close her eyes. 5 seconds to remember how to breathe around the fist that seemed to live permanently in her chest now. 5 seconds to wonder what the hell she was doing here. The door banged open. Tyler Bennett filled the frame, all 6 feet of cocky confidence wrapped in navy blue scrubs. He'd been at Mercy General for 2 years and acted like he owned every square inch of it. "Crawford's looking for you." Tyler didn't even try to hide his smirk. "Something about you charting wrong vitals on the MVA patient from this morning." Again. Maya's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. "I checked those vitals 3 times. Clearly not 3 enough. Tyler examined his fingernails like they were more interesting than her panic. He's in his office. And Maya, maybe try walking a little faster this time. You move like my grandmother, and she's been dead for 5 years. At least she had an excuse." The laughter followed her down the hallway like dogs nipping at her heels. Dr. Ethan Crawford's office was a temple to achievement. Princeton diploma, Johns Hopkins Medical School, magna cum laude, certificates of excellence from every prestigious medical organization that mattered. Photographs of him shaking hands with senators, celebrities, the mayor of Philadelphia. He sat behind his mahogany desk like a king receiving a peasant, not even looking up when Maya knocked. "Come in and close the door." Maya entered. The door clicked shut behind her with a sound like a cell locking. She kept her hands clasped in front of her to hide the tremor that had started the moment Tyler found her. Crawford studied his computer screen for another 30 seconds, making her wait, making her sweat, before he finally looked up. His face was arranged in an expression of disappointment so profound it might as well have been grief. "Do you know why you're here, Maya?" "Nurse Bennett mentioned an issue with charting, doctor." "An issue?" Crawford tasted the word like it was spoiled milk. That's certainly one way to characterize gross negligence. You charted the MVA patient's blood pressure as 120/80, completely normal. Do you remember that? Maya's mind raced back through the morning shift. The motor vehicle accident patient, early 20s, possible concussion. Alert and oriented ×3. She'd checked his pressure manually because the automatic cuff was malfunctioning. Checked it twice. Written it down. 120/80, doctor. I remember clearly because I used the manual cuff. Crawford turned his monitor around with the slow deliberation of a prosecutor presenting murder weapon evidence. Then perhaps you can explain this. On the screen, the patient's electronic chart glowed, and there, in the vitals section, was a blood pressure reading of 160/90. Hypertensive. Dangerous. Requiring immediate intervention that hadn't been provided. But the handwriting in the notes section wasn't Maya's. The timestamp showed the entry had been modified at 10:47 a.m., 30 minutes after she'd left that patient's bedside. That's not... The words died in her throat, because she knew how this would sound. Paranoid. Defensive. Exactly what they expected from someone who couldn't handle the pressure. Not what? Crawford leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Not your responsibility? Because last I checked, you were the primary nurse on that patient. Or are you going to tell me that someone else came in and changed your charting? That there's a conspiracy against poor Maya Washington who just can't seem to get anything right, no matter how many chances we give her. The sarcasm was a scalpel, precise and cutting deep. No, doctor. Maya forced the words out through clenched teeth. I'll be more careful. You'll be more than careful. Crawford stood, walked around his desk, invaded her space until she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Let me be brutally honest with you, Maya, because I think you need to hear this. I didn't want to hire you. HR forced my hand with their diversity initiatives, their quotas, their need to make the staff look like a United Colors of Benetton ad. But every single day, you proved to me that my instincts were correct. Each word landed like a punch. You're slow. You second-guess yourself constantly. You triple-check things that any competent nurse would know on the first pass. You move through this department like you're terrified of your own shadow. And those hands... He grabbed her wrist, held it up between them. Her fingers trembled visibly. Have you seen a neurologist? Because if you have early-onset Parkinson's or MS or some other degenerative condition, you have absolutely no business working in an emergency department where lives depend on steady hands and quick reflexes. Maya jerked her hand back. My hands are fine, doctor. Are they? Because from where I'm standing, they shake like you've got delirium tremens. Which brings me to my next question. Crawford's voice dropped lower. More dangerous. Is there a substance abuse problem I should know about? Because if you're showing up to work impaired, that's not just a firing offense, that's a criminal offense. I'll have your license revoked so fast. I don't drink. Maya's voice came out stronger than she felt. I don't use drugs. I don't take medication except occasional ibuprofen for old injuries. Then what's your excuse? Crawford spread his hands wide. Help me understand, Maya. What makes you think you belong in one of the top emergency departments on the East Coast when you can barely handle basic nursing tasks? What makes you think you're qualified to work alongside doctors who trained at the best medical schools in the world? What makes you think you deserve to be here? Because I've done emergency medicine in places where mortar rounds were the background music, Maya thought. Because I've performed field surgery in the back of Black Hawk helicopters while the pilots screamed about taking fire. Because I've held men together with my bare hands when there was no equipment, no backup, nothing but skill and will. Because these shaking hands have saved more lives than you've probably seen in your entire career. But she said none of that. I'm here to help patients, doctor. That's all I want to do. Crawford studied her for a long moment, then shook his head with something that might have been pity if it wasn't so contaminated with contempt. You're here because HR needed to fill a quota. Let's not dress it up as anything more noble than that. Now get out of my office, and try not to kill anyone today. And Maya, if I see one more charting error, one more medication mistake, one more incident of any kind, you're done. Do you understand me? Done. Yes, doctor. Maya left his office on legs that felt disconnected from her body. In the hallway, she pressed her back against the wall and counted. 10, 20, 30, 40. Rough meeting? Dr. Marcus Lee appeared beside her like he'd materialized from thin air. He was 28, brilliant, and fully aware of both facts. His resident badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights like a medal. Crawford can be intense, Marcus continued, not waiting for her answer. But he's the best emergency physician in the state. Maybe on the entire East Coast. If you just listen to what he tells you and follow his protocols exactly, you'll be fine. He has high standards, but that's not a bad thing, right? Right, Maya managed. Hey, listen. Marcus lowered his voice, glanced around like he was about to share classified information. Some of us are getting together tonight after shift. Drinks at McGinty's pub, just unwinding, war stories, you know how it is. You should come. It might help you, integrate better with the team, feel less like an outsider. Maya recognized the offer for exactly what it was. Charity extended to the struggling employee everyone expected to fail. A chance to watch her squirm in a social setting instead of just a professional one. I appreciate the invitation, but I have plans. Marcus's smile sharpened. Your plans involve sitting alone in your apartment like you do every night? Come on, Maya. We're not that bad once you get to know us. And who knows? Maybe if Crawford sees you making an effort to be part of the team, he'll ease up on the micromanagement. Social capital matters in a place like this. I'll think about it. Your choice, Marcus shrugged. Oh, and speaking of choices, heads up, there's a pool going in the resident lounge. How long Maya Washington lasts at Mercy General? I've got $50 on 3 more weeks, so don't make me lose money, okay? He delivered this with a wink, like they were sharing a joke instead of him twisting a knife. Maya watched him walk away, his gait confident, the stride of someone who'd never once questioned whether he belonged anywhere. The rest of the shift unfolded like a carefully choreographed humiliation. Romano assigned her to deep clean the trauma bays, work that was supposed to be handled by environmental services. Tyler accidentally bumped into her while she was carrying a tray of vials, sending them crashing to the floor, then stood there while she cleaned up the mess on her hands and knees as doctors and nurses stepped around her like she was furniture. A patient's wife, a woman in her 60s with expensive jewelry and an even more expensive attitude, took one look at Maya and said, "Can we get a real nurse? This one looks too old and shaky to know what she's doing. No offense, dear, but I'd feel better with someone younger." None taken, Maya lied, stepping aside while Romano swept in with her beauty queen smile and took over. By the time her 12-hour shift ended at 11 p.m., Maya felt like she'd been hollowed out with a spoon, scraped clean of everything except exhaustion and shame. The women's locker room was empty. The other nurses had already left, their chatter and laughter fading down the hallway hours ago. Plans for drinks and dinner and normal lives that didn't include her. Maya changed out of her scrubs slowly, her muscles aching in ways that had nothing to do with physical labor. She opened her locker. Taped to the inside of the door was a photograph, its edges worn from years of handling. A younger Maya, maybe 24, wearing desert camouflage and full tactical gear. She was grinning at the camera despite the dust coating her face, her arm around another soldier. Both of them looked exhausted and exhilarated, and alive in a way that Maya barely recognized now. That woman in the photograph had been fearless. This woman, standing in a hospital locker room with cheap linoleum under her feet, felt like a ghost haunting her own life. Maya touched the photo lightly, tracing the outline of her younger face. "What the hell happened to you?" she whispered. Talking to yourself is definitely not a good sign. Maya spun. Brittany Chen stood in the doorway, scrolling through her phone. Probably hadn't even looked up to deliver the barb. "Just tired," Maya said, quickly closing her locker. Brittany walked to her own locker, pulled out a designer gym bag that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. "You know, if you're struggling this much, maybe this isn't the right fit. No shame in that." My aunt worked in a nursing home for years, and she loved it. Very low stress, mostly just medication administration and vital signs. Might be more your speed. "I'm fine here." "Are you, though?" Brittany finally looked up from her phone, and her expression was something between pity and disgust. "Because between you and me, people are talking. They're saying Crawford's building a case to fire you. That he's documenting everything, creating a paper trail. That it's only a matter of time before you make a mistake big enough that he has legal grounds for termination." Maya's hands tightened on the strap of her bag until her knuckles went pale. "Is that what people are saying? I'm just trying to help." Brittany's voice took on that particular tone that people use when they're being cruel but want credit for kindness. "This is an elite environment. We handle the most complex cases on the East Coast. Trauma, cardiac, neuro. This isn't some rural clinic where you can take your time. This is fast-paced, high-stakes medicine. And honestly, not everyone can cut it at this level. There's no shame in knowing your limitations." "Thank you for your concern." "Maya?" Brittany called as Maya headed for the door. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're stupid or incompetent. Just overwhelmed. Out of your depth. It happens to people who get promoted beyond their abilities." Maya didn't respond. She walked out of the locker room, down the corridor, through the automatic doors that whispered shut behind her, and into the November cold that hit like a slap. Philadelphia at night was alive with noise. Cars honking, people spilling out of bars, laughing too loud, street musicians playing for change. The distant wail of sirens that never stopped in a city this size. Maya walked 3 blocks to the bus stop and sat on the cold metal bench, alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Heard you had another rough shift. Hang in there, things will get better. A friend." There was no friend. This was mockery wrapped in a smiley face. Someone from the hospital had gotten her number and was amusing themselves. Maya deleted the text without responding. A second buzz, another message. "P.S. The pool is up to $300 now. You're a popular topic in the break room." Delete. A third buzz. "Don't worry, I bet you'd last 4 weeks. I believe in you." Lol. Maya turned her phone off completely and shoved it into her bag. The bus arrived 15 minutes late, mostly empty. She took a seat in the very back and pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching the city blur into streams of light and shadow. The bus driver's radio played softly. Traffic updates, weather reports. A story about a military training exercise gone wrong, multiple casualties. But Maya wasn't really listening. She was somewhere else. Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. August heat that turned the inside of vehicles into ovens. The sky bleached white by a sun that felt close enough to touch. Captain Maya Washington, 24 years old, sat in the back of the medical Humvee checking supplies for the 1,000th time. Across from her, a baby-faced Navy corpsman named Marcus Thompson was doing the same, his dark skin already burned darker by the relentless Afghan sun. "You ever get used to it?" Marcus asked. "The waiting? Knowing something bad is probably going to happen, but not knowing when?" "Never," Maya told him. "The waiting is always the hardest part. Once things go sideways, training kicks in and you just move. But the waiting? That'll eat you alive if you let it." Marcus nodded, checked his med kit again. "How many tours is this for you?" "Third. You?" "First. I'm scared shitless if I'm being honest." Maya looked at him, this kid who was barely old enough to drink legally, and felt a surge of protective instinct. "Fear's good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's the people who aren't afraid who get killed." And then the world exploded. The IED detonated under the second Humvee with a sound that wasn't really sound at all. It was pressure. Concussion. A physical force that lifted the 5-ton vehicle into the air like a toy and tore it apart in a bloom of orange flame and black smoke. Maya was moving before conscious thought engaged. Out of her vehicle, running toward the burning wreckage. Screams cutting through the ringing in her ears that wouldn't stop. Marcus was already there, trying to pull someone from the flames. Maya reached him, grabbed the soldier's other arm, yanked him free of the twisted metal that was hot enough to raise blisters through her gloves. Blood. So much blood it looked black in the harsh sunlight. The femoral artery was severed, pumping the soldier's life out onto the sand with each heartbeat. Maya's hands found the wound, pressed down with everything she had, fingers slipping in hot blood, feeling for the artery, finding it, clamping down. "I need clamps," she shouted. "Marcus, get me surgical clamps from the kit." Gunfire erupted from the ridgeline. Bullets kicked up dust geysers around them. Someone was screaming for suppressive fire. "We need to move," Marcus yelled, ducking as rounds whined overhead. "They've got our position zeroed." "Not yet." Maya's voice was ice and iron. "We move now, he dies. Get me the clamps." Marcus dove back to the vehicle, came back with the field surgical kit while rounds pinged off metal around them. Maya's fingers were inside another human being, feeling his pulse against her fingertips, the desperate throb of a life trying not to end. 4 hours. That's how long she stayed in that position. 4 hours with her fingers inside specialist David Chen's leg, holding his femoral artery closed while the firefight raged. 4 hours in 120-degree heat. 4 hours while her back screamed and her shoulders burned and her hands went from aching to numb to something beyond pain. The extraction helicopters couldn't land. Too hot, too much fire. So Maya held pressure, and Marcus kept Chen alive with fluids and morphine and pure determination. When the Apache gunships finally cleared the ridgeline and the Blackhawks could land, when they finally got Chen onto the bird, and Maya finally released pressure and let the flight surgeon take over, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline crash, muscle fatigue, nerve compression from maintaining that position for so long. Something had broken in the fine motor control of her fingers. They never quite worked the same way again. The neurologist at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center had been matter-of-fact about it. "You have permanent nerve damage in both hands. Essential tremor, exacerbated by the trauma. It's not progressive, but it's not going away either. You can still function, but fine motor tasks will be more difficult. Surgery might help, might not." Maya had declined surgery. wore the tremor like a scar, a reminder of the price of saving a life. Specialist Chen had lived, gone home to his wife and daughter, sent Maya a Christmas card every year with a photo of his growing family. The hands that shook had been worth it. "End of the line, miss." Maya jerked back to the present. The bus driver was looking at her in the rearview mirror. "Last stop," he said. "You okay? You were out cold." Maya nodded, gathered her bag, stumbled off the bus into the cold Philadelphia night that felt like a different planet from the Afghan heat of her memory. Her apartment was a studio in a converted warehouse, cheap enough that she could afford it on a nurse's salary. She unlocked 3 deadbolts, old habits from living in war zones, and stepped inside. The space was Spartan. A mattress on the floor because she hadn't bothered buying a bed frame, a small table with 1 chair, a microwave and mini-fridge, no television. No decorations except for 1 framed photograph on the table, her Army graduation photo, young and proud in dress uniform. Maya dropped her bag, sat on the edge of the mattress, and let herself feel the full weight of the day. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on out of habit. The notification wasn't mockery this time. It was a news alert. SEAL team training exercise ends in disaster. Multiple critical casualties expected at Mercy General Hospital tomorrow morning. Maya stared at the screen. SEALs. Coming to her hospital. She thought of Marcus Thompson, that baby-faced corpsman who'd handed her surgical clamps while bullets snapped overhead. She'd heard through the grapevine that he'd gone on to BUD/S, become a SEAL, risen through the ranks. She hadn't kept in touch with anyone from her old life. That life was sealed in a box labeled Captain Maya Washington, U.S. Army Medical Corps, retired. This life was just Maya, the struggling nurse who couldn't do anything right. She set her phone down, lay back on the mattress, stared at the water-stained ceiling. Tomorrow would be another day of humiliation. Another day of proving she didn't belong. Another day of swallowing insults and biting her tongue and wondering why she'd thought she could have a normal life. But tonight, just for tonight, she let herself open the cardboard box she kept in her closet. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was her dress uniform. The medals were heavy in her hands. Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, bronze stars with V devices, Purple Hearts. She let herself remember what it felt like to be someone who mattered, even if nobody here would ever know. Even if nobody here would ever believe. Maya folded the uniform carefully, put it back in the box, closed the closet door on that version of herself. She tried to sleep, but the dreams came anyway. They always did. Dreams of sand and blood, and the sound of her own voice shouting, "Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me," while the world burned. She woke at 5 a.m. to her alarm, groggy and unrested. Another shift. Another chance to fail. Another day of being invisible. Maya showered, dressed in fresh scrubs, made instant coffee that tasted like regret. Her phone showed 17 new messages in the staff group chat. She opened it against her better judgment. Tyler. Who's got Maya duty today? I'm not babysitting her again. Romano. She's scheduled for trauma rotation. God help us all. Marcus Lee. Pool update. We're at $450. Brittany bet 2 weeks. I'm holding at 3. Crawford. Professional reminder that all staff are expected to maintain Mercy General standards of excellence. No exceptions. The last one was clearly directed at her. Maya deleted the app. She'd re-download it later, but for now, she couldn't stomach it. She walked to the bus stop in the pre-dawn darkness, rode to the hospital in silence. Walked through those automatic doors at 6:45 a.m. for another 12-hour shift. The ER was already chaotic. A cardiac arrest in Bay 2, a stroke patient being prepped for transfer. 3 patients in the waiting room who'd been there since midnight. Crawford was already there, fresh and pressed and perfect. He saw Maya clock in, and his expression said everything. Disappointment. Frustration. Why are you still here? Assignments are posted, he said without preamble. You're on trauma standby. Stay out of the way unless specifically called. Yes, doctor. Maya went to the break room, poured herself hospital coffee that was somehow worse than her instant stuff, and waited. Trauma standby meant sitting in limbo, ready to jump when called but knowing you probably wouldn't be. It meant watching the real nurses handle the real emergencies while you restocked gloves and counted supplies. It meant being invisible. The morning crept by. A construction worker with a nail gun injury, an elderly woman with a hip fracture. Routine cases handled by competent staff while Maya watched from the margins. At 10:37 a.m., the overhead speakers crackled to life. Code Black, Code Black, mass casualty event incoming. All trauma teams to the bay. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The atmosphere changed instantly. The casual chatter died. Doctors and nurses moved with sudden purpose. Crawford's voice cut through the organized chaos. Listen up. We have incoming from a military training exercise. Helicopter crash. Multiple critical injuries. This is high-value federal personnel, which means we do everything by the book. Romano, you're on Team 1. Lee, Team 2. Bennett, get the blood bank on standby. We're going to need massive transfusion protocols. He didn't look at Maya. She started moving toward the supply area, assuming she'd be relegated to restocking again. Washington. She stopped, turned. Crawford was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. You're assigned to observation duty. Stay in Trauma 1. Watch. Learn. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. Understand? Yes, doctor. The automatic doors at the ambulance bay were already opening. The sound hit first. Sirens. Rotor wash from the helicopters on the pad. Shouting. Then the gurneys started rolling in. 6 of them. 6 broken bodies. Military personnel, some still in flight suits, others in tactical gear. Blood. So much blood. The lead gurney crashed through the doors, surrounded by paramedics and flight medics all shouting vitals. Nail, early 30s, multiple GSWs, tension pneumo suspected, BP crashing, intubated in the field but oxygen sats dropping. Maya's training kicked in. Her eyes tracked the patient even as she pressed herself against the wall, staying out of the way as ordered. She saw the chest trauma, the way the right side wasn't moving properly, the subtle shift of the trachea, tension pneumothorax, textbook presentation. Crawford and his team swarmed the patient. Get him to Trauma 1. I need a chest x-ray, type and cross for 8 units, and somebody get me a thoracostomy tray. They wheeled the gurney past Maya, and that's when she saw his face. Older, scarred, but unmistakable. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Thompson. The baby-faced corpsman from Kandahar. The kid who'd handed her surgical clamps while the world exploded around them. Now a SEAL team leader, broken and bleeding on a gurney. And nobody here knew that the invisible nurse pressed against the wall had once saved his life with her bare hands. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was going to change everything. She just didn't know how yet. Maya's back pressed against the cold wall of Trauma 1, her breath shallow, her heart jackhammering against her ribs. The chaos swirled around her like a hurricane. Nurses running, machines screaming, Crawford's voice cutting through it all like a blade. But everything had narrowed to a single point. The man on the gurney, Marcus Thompson. The kid who'd handed her surgical clamps while the world exploded. Now a SEAL commander, drowning in his own blood. Vitals crashing, someone shouted. BP 70/40 and dropping. Crawford moved with the confidence of a man who'd never failed at anything. Get me vascular access, bilateral large-bore YVs. Push 2 liters of crystalloid wide open. I need O-negative blood, 6 units, and somebody page cardiothoracic surgery now. Maya watched his hands work. Fast, precise, completely focused on the wrong thing. Thompson's chest wasn't moving right. The right side barely rose with each ventilator breath, while the left side expanded normally. His neck veins were distended, bulging against his skin like ropes. His trachea had shifted left, maybe 3 centimeters, visible even from where Maya stood. Tension pneumothorax. Air trapped in the chest cavity, building pressure, crushing the heart and lungs. Every second that passed, the pressure increased. Every heartbeat pushed him closer to cardiac arrest. Crawford was focused on the abdominal bleeding, barking orders about ultrasound and peritoneal lavage. He'd miss it. He was going to miss it, just like he'd missed everything else that didn't fit his narrow, protocol-driven approach to medicine. Maya's hands started to shake harder, not from fear, from the effort of staying still. "Doctor?" The word came out before she could stop it. Crawford didn't even look up. "Washington, I told you to observe. That means silent." "His chest is being managed." Crawford's voice was ice. "Romano, can you escort Nurse Washington out of this trauma bay? She's disrupting the code." Dr. Jessica Romano moved toward Maya with a smile that was all threat. "Come on, Maya. Let the professionals work." Maya didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on Thompson's monitor. Heart rate climbing, blood pressure falling, oxygen saturation dropping despite the ventilator pumping 100% oxygen into his lungs. He was dying, and she was the only one who saw it. "His trachea is deviated," Maya said, louder this time. "He has a tension pneumo. You need to decompress now, or he's going into cardiac arrest in the next 60 seconds. The trauma bay went silent for a half beat. Every head turned toward her. Crawford straightened up slowly, and the look on his face was pure contempt. "Did you just diagnose my patient?" "I'm telling you what I see. You see what you're trained to see, which is vitals and basic nursing assessment. I see the complete clinical picture." Crawford gestured at the ultrasound screen. "He has a grade 3 liver laceration with active bleeding. That's what's causing his hypotension. The chest is clear on auscultation." "You didn't auscultate the right side thoroughly," Maya said. "And you can't hear breath sounds over all this noise. Look at his neck. Look at his trachea." "Security!" Crawford didn't even look at her when he said it. "Get her out of here." 45 seconds. Maya said. Her voice had changed, dropped into that low register she'd used in the field, the voice that made soldiers stop and listen, even when mortars were falling. "That's how long he has before his heart stops. And when it does, when you're doing chest compressions and pumping drugs and wondering why nothing's working, you're going to remember this moment." Crawford's face flushed red. "You're fired, effective immediately. Security!" Thompson's monitor alarm shrieked. His blood pressure had dropped to 60/30. His heart rate spiked to 160. And then his oxygen saturation plummeted from 92 to 74 in the space of 3 seconds. "He's crashing!" Tyler Bennett yelled, genuine panic in his voice for the first time. Crawford grabbed the ambu bag, started manually ventilating. Nothing changed. The numbers kept falling. 70, 68, 62. "Push epi," Crawford ordered. 1 milligram IV. Maya watched him kill Marcus Thompson with protocol-driven medicine. Watched him throw medications at a mechanical problem that couldn't be fixed with drugs. 58, 54. "He's in PEA," Marcus Lee shouted, pointing at the monitor. "Pulseless electrical activity." Crawford started chest compressions, his perfect technique absolutely useless against air pressure crushing Thompson's heart. Maya moved. She didn't run. She exploded forward with the kind of speed that came from muscle memory burned in by 1,000 field emergencies. Her hand shot out, grabbed a 14-gauge angiocath from the procedure tray, and she was at the bedside before anyone processed what was happening. "Get away from my patient," Crawford snarled, still doing compressions. Maya didn't answer. She placed her left hand on Thompson's chest, feeling for landmarks through the tactical vest they'd cut away, through the gauze and blood. Second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, right side. Her fingers found it in half a second. Crawford lunged for her. "Security! Stop her!" Maya dropped her shoulder, planted her elbow into his sternum, and sent him stumbling backward into the crash cart. The move was pure combat training, economical and brutal. In the same motion, she drove the needle into Thompson's chest at a perfect 90-degree angle. The hiss of escaping air was loud enough to hear over the alarms. Pressure released. The trapped air vented out through the catheter in a violent rush that proved everything Maya had said. Thompson's monitor changed immediately. Oxygen saturation climbed. 60, 68, 75, 82. His blood pressure ticked up. 70/40, 80/50. The PEA rhythm organized back into a sinus tachycardia. He gasped, a huge, ragged breath that inflated both lungs equally for the first time since the helicopter crash. Maya kept her hand on his chest, stabilizing the catheter, her eyes on the monitor. "Breath sounds should be equal now," she said quietly, "and his pressure will continue to rise as the cardiac output improves. You'll want to get a chest tube in within the next 10 minutes to prevent reaccumulation." Nobody moved. The entire trauma team stood, frozen, staring at her like she'd just walked through a wall. Crawford picked himself up off the floor, his face a color Maya had never seen on a human being before, something between purple and white. "You assaulted a physician. You performed an unauthorized procedure on a federal—" Thompson's eyes opened. They were glassy, dilated from the drugs, but conscious, aware. He turned his head slightly, looking past Crawford, past Romano, past all the expensive equipment and elite training. He looked at Maya. Recognition hit him like voltage. His mouth moved, forming words through the endotracheal tube, but sound came out garbled and desperate. He lifted his right hand, the one that wasn't connected to IV lines, reaching toward her. Maya caught his hand. "Easy, Marcus. You're at Mercy General Hospital in Philadelphia. You were in a helicopter crash. You're going to be okay." Thompson's eyes widened. The hand gripping hers tightened with surprising strength. He was trying to talk around the breathing tube, getting more agitated. "He needs to stay calm," Maya said, not looking at Crawford. "His pressure's still labile. Someone should sedate him." "Someone should explain what the hell is happening," Crawford said, but his voice had lost its edge. He sounded confused, unmoored. "He knows her," Romano whispered. "Look at him. He knows her." Thompson was still trying to talk. Finally, he gave up on words and did something that made the entire room hold its breath. He released Maya's hand. With tremendous effort, fighting through the pain and the drugs, he brought his hand up to his forehead and saluted. It wasn't casual. It wasn't sloppy. It was a crisp, formal, perfect military salute, held with absolute conviction, despite the tremor in his arm. Maya's professional mask cracked. Her eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for weeks. "At ease, Commander. That's an order." Thompson's hand dropped back to the bed. His eyes stayed locked on hers, and a small smile touched his lips before the sedation pulled him back under. Crawford stood there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. What is happening right now?" The automatic doors to the trauma bay burst open. Not medical personnel this time. Military. Two MPs in full dress uniform entered first, their eyes scanning the room with professional intensity. Then came a Navy captain, 3 stripes on his shoulder boards, holding a briefcase that screamed classified materials. And behind them, walking with a cane but radiating authority that made the air pressure change, came a man who made Crawford look like a child playing dress-up. Rear Admiral James Hartley, 2 stars, silver hair, a chest full of ribbons that told the story of 40 years protecting the country. He walked straight to Thompson's bedside, glanced at the monitors, then turned to face the room. "I'm Admiral Hartley, commander of Naval Special Warfare Group 2. Someone want to tell me what happened to my SEAL team leader?" Crawford stepped forward, smoothing his coat, already pivoting into politician mode. "Admiral, I'm Dr. Ethan Crawford, Chief of Emergency Medicine. Commander Thompson arrived in critical condition with multiple traumatic injuries. My team stabilized him using advanced trauma protocols." "Is that him?" The Admiral wasn't looking at Crawford. He was looking at the nurse standing by Thompson's bedside, her hand still resting protectively on the commander's shoulder. "Admiral, I can assure you that Commander Thompson received the absolute best." "Captain Rodriguez," the Admiral said, cutting Crawford off completely. "Pull the security footage from this trauma bay. Last 15 minutes. The Navy captain opened his briefcase, removed a tablet, and within 30 seconds had accessed the hospital's security system. He held the tablet so the Admiral could see. They watched in silence. Watched Crawford miss the diagnosis. Watched Maya call it out. Watched Crawford refuse to listen. Watched Thompson crash. Watched Maya perform the needle decompression. The Admiral's jaw muscles worked. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. "Dr. Crawford, you just watched a Navy SEAL commander go into cardiac arrest from a condition that any competent field medic would have caught in 30 seconds. And when someone tried to save his life, you attempted to have her removed by security." "Admiral, there are protocols," Crawford started. "Protocols?" The Admiral's voice rose slightly. "Commander Thompson is alive right now because someone in this room ignored your protocols. Someone who actually knew what they were doing." He turned to Maya. "What's your name?" Maya straightened slightly. Old habits. "Maya Washington, sir. Registered nurse." "Maya Washington." The Admiral studied her face. "That name sounds familiar. Captain Rodriguez, run it through the DoD database." "Already did, sir." Rodriguez looked up from his tablet, and his expression had changed completely. "Maya Elizabeth Washington, former rank Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army Medical Corps, service number—" "That's classified information," Maya said quietly. "Sir?" The Admiral's eyes narrowed, then widened. "Colonel Dusty Washington. The ghost medic." The room went completely silent. Crawford looked between them, lost. "What?" "Dr. Crawford," the Admiral said, still looking at Maya. "The woman you just fired is a retired Army trauma surgeon with 3 Distinguished Service Crosses, 5 Bronze Stars with V devices for valor, 2 Purple Hearts, and a Silver Star. She served 8 combat tours embedded with Special Operations Forces. She has more trauma experience in her left hand than your entire staff has collectively." Crawford's face drained of all color. That's not possible. She's just a..." "Just a what?" The Admiral's voice could have cut steel. "Just a nurse? Just a middle-aged black woman who moves too slow and has shaky hands?" He stepped closer to Crawford. "Those shaking hands held one of my men's femoral artery closed for 4 hours while under enemy fire in Kandahar province. Those hands have performed field surgery in conditions that would make your sterile trauma bay look like a 5-star hotel. And that woman just saved Commander Thompson's life while you were too arrogant to listen." Romano found her voice. "But she never said anything. She never told anyone." "Because she retired from war." the Admiral said. She wanted peace. She wanted a quiet life. And you people made it hell for her. Tyler Bennett, standing in the corner, looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Marcus Lee had gone white as paper. Crawford just stood there, his entire worldview shattering in real time. "Admiral," Maya said quietly, "Commander Thompson needs a chest tube placed. The needle decompression is temporary, and his abdominal injuries need surgical evaluation." "Already called our team," the Admiral said. "Walter Reed is sending a surgical unit. They'll be here in 20 minutes. He looked at Crawford. "Your services are no longer required for Commander Thompson's care. You're dismissed." "You can't just—" Crawford started. "I can, and I did. Captain Rodriguez, document everything. I want a full report on my desk by 1800 hours. And Dr. Crawford?" The Admiral's smile was cold. "I suggest you start updating your malpractice insurance, because when Commander Thompson's family hears that you almost let him die out of ego, they're going to have questions." His father is Senator Thompson. His uncle is the Secretary of Defense. His brother commands SEAL Team 6. You picked the wrong patients to play God with. Crawford opened his mouth, closed it, turned and walked out of the trauma bay without another word. Romano and Tyler followed him like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Marcus Lee hesitated at the door, looked back at Maya with an expression that might have been shame, then left. The Admiral waited until they were gone, then turned to Maya. His stern expression softened. "Colonel Washington, it's an honor." "I'm not a colonel anymore, sir. Just Maya." "Bullshit," the Admiral smiled. "Once an officer, always an officer. And once a hero, always a hero, whether you want the title or not." He glanced at Thompson, now resting peacefully with normalized vitals. "How did you end up working as a nurse in Philadelphia?" "I wanted normal, sir. I wanted quiet. And instead you got this." The Admiral shook his head. "I'm sorry, Maya. You deserved better. I made my choices." "No, you made sacrifices. There's a difference." The Admiral paused. "Commander Thompson has been asking about you for years. Every time we deploy, he tells the new medics about the surgeon who saved his life when he was a Green Corpsman. The ghost who disappeared after the war. He's going to be very happy to know you're real and not just a legend." Maya's throat tightened. "I'm glad he's okay, sir." The trauma bay doors opened again. This time it was hospital administration. Mr. Henderson, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes, followed by Mrs. Galloway, the director of nursing, and 3 men in expensive suits who screamed lawyers. Henderson's eyes found Maya. "Ms. Washington, I apologize for the interruption, but we need to speak with you immediately regarding—" "She's not going anywhere," the Admiral said. "Colonel Washington is currently under federal protection as a material witness to a military incident. If you have questions, you can direct them to Captain Rodriguez here, who will forward them to the Judge Advocate General's office." Henderson's face went gray. "Admiral, we had no idea about Ms. Washington's background. If we had known—" "You would have what? Treated her like a human being? Respected her expertise?" The Admiral's contempt was palpable. "The fact that you needed to know her military record to treat her with basic dignity tells me everything I need to know about this institution." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Admiral, Mercy General Hospital takes pride in our commitment to excellence and our respect for—" "Save it for the depositions," the Admiral cut him off. "Because when this hits the news, and it will hit the news, you're going to need better talking points than corporate platitudes. A decorated war hero was bullied, harassed, and fired from your hospital for saving a patient's life. Think about how that's going to play on CNN." Henderson looked like he might vomit. The Admiral turned back to Maya. "Colonel, I know you wanted quiet, but I'm officially requesting your assistance with Commander Thompson's care and recovery. The DoD will compensate you as a civilian medical consultant at your former rank and pay grade, and I guarantee you'll be treated with the respect you've earned." Maya looked at Thompson, still unconscious but breathing steadily, his vital signs stable. The kid she'd saved in the desert, now a man leading men into danger. "I'll help however I can, sir." "Outstanding." The Admiral nodded to Rodriguez. "Get the paperwork started. And, Captain, make sure Colonel Washington has everything she needs. Security, transportation, access to any facility or personnel required for Commander Thompson's care." "Yes, sir." The Admiral extended his hands to Maya. "Thank you, Colonel. For saving him then, for saving him now, and for not giving up even when they tried to break you." Maya shook his hand, her grip firm despite the tremor. "I don't break, sir. I just bend a little." "Hua," the Admiral said with a smile. "Hua," Maya responded, the old Army battle cry feeling right on her tongue for the first time in years. Henderson cleared his throat desperately. "Admiral, Ms. Washington, Mercy General would like to formally apologize for any misunderstanding and offer Ms. Washington her position back with a significant increase in—" "No," Maya said simply. Everyone turned to look at her. "No, I don't want my position back. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from this hospital except access to Commander Thompson until he's transferred to Walter Reed." Henderson looked relieved and terrified at the same time. "Of course, anything you need." Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a small man who cared more about liability than people. "What I need is for you to remember this moment. Remember that the woman you discarded, the woman your staff mocked and humiliated, was someone extraordinary hiding in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe, start treating every single person in this hospital like they might be extraordinary too, because you never know who you're underestimating." She turned and walked out of the trauma bay, her head high, her shoulders back, no longer invisible. Behind her, she heard the Admiral say to Henderson, "You just lost the best trauma specialist on the East Coast. Sleep well with that." Maya walked through the emergency department that had been her prison for 3 weeks. Nurses stopped and stared. Residents whispered. Word was spreading fast. She went to the locker room, changed out of her scrubs for the last time, and grabbed the photograph from inside her locker door. The young soldier grinning at the camera. "Found you," she whispered to the image. "You were here the whole time." Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Captain Rodriguez. The Admiral has authorized a hotel suite for you near the hospital. Car is waiting outside. Thank you for your service, Colonel." Maya walked out through the emergency department's entrance, and there, parked at the curb, was a black SUV. A Marine in dress uniform opened the door for her. "Ma'am," he said with genuine respect. Maya climbed in. The leather seats were warm. The silence was blessed. As the SUV pulled away from Mercy General Hospital, Maya looked back one time, saw Crawford standing in the window of his office, watching her leave. She didn't wave. She didn't gloat. She just turned away and faced forward, toward whatever came next. The invisible woman was gone. Colonel Dusty Washington was back. And the people who'd tried to destroy her were about to learn what it meant to underestimate a warrior. The hotel suite overlooked the Philadelphia skyline, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a city that looked nothing like the war zones Maya had spent 8 years navigating. She stood at the glass, still in her civilian clothes, watching lights flicker on as evening settled over the streets below. Her phone had been ringing non-stop for the past 2 hours. She'd ignored every call. Until this one. The screen showed Rodriguez, USN. She answered. "Colonel Washington, this is Captain Rodriguez. Commander Thompson is awake and asking for you. The surgical team from Walter Reed has arrived and stabilized him, but he's refusing sedation until he speaks with you. Can you come back to the hospital? Maya checked her watch. 7 p.m. She'd been gone for 5 hours. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll have a car waiting downstairs, ma'am. The drive back to Mercy General felt different. No anxiety, no dread, just clarity. The Marine driver didn't make small talk, which Maya appreciated. When they pulled up to the hospital entrance, 2 MPs were standing guard at the door. They saluted as she passed. Inside, the emergency department had transformed into something unrecognizable. News vans were parked outside. Reporters were being held back by hospital security. And every staff member who saw Maya walking through stopped what they were doing. Some stared. Some looked away in shame. Tyler Bennett actually turned and walked in the opposite direction when he saw her coming. Romano was at the nurse's station, and when their eyes met, the blonde doctor's face went pale. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closed it and looked down at her paperwork. Maya kept walking. Commander Thompson had been moved to a private suite on the 4th floor, the VIP wing, where the hospital put celebrities and politicians. 2 more MPs stood outside his door. They checked Maya's ID, confirmed with Rodriguez via radio, then opened the door for her. Thompson was sitting up in bed, still pale but alert. His chest was wrapped in bandages, tubes and wires connecting him to monitors that beeped softly. When he saw Maya, his face lit up like sunrise. "Doc," he said, his voice rough from the breathing tube, but strong. "They told me it was you, but I thought I was hallucinating from the morphine." Maya crossed to his bedside and, without thinking, checked his vitals on the monitor. Old habits. "Your pressure's good. Oxygen saturation 98%. How's your pain?" "Manageable." Thompson's eyes were intense, studying her face like he was confirming a miracle. "It's really you. Captain Washington. Except they're calling you Colonel now." "I got promoted. You got promoted. Time kept moving." Maya pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. "You look better than the last time I saw you, bleeding out in the desert." "That's a low bar." Thompson smiled, then winced. "They told me what happened downstairs, how that asshole doctor tried to stop you from saving my life, how you saved it anyway. You would have done the same. Maybe, but I wouldn't have done it after being treated like garbage for 3 weeks." Thompson's expression hardened. "The Admiral told me everything. How they talked to you, how they treated you. Doc, why didn't you tell them who you were?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "Because I didn't want to be her anymore. Captain Washington, Colonel Washington, Dusty. That person lived in war zones and saw things that normal people shouldn't see. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be invisible." "You accomplished that mission," Thompson said. "But at what cost?" "It doesn't matter now." "It does matter." Thompson shifted in the bed, grimacing. "You saved my life twice. Once when I was a stupid kid who didn't know his ass from his elbow, and again today when I was bleeding out on a table. You don't get to pretend that doesn't matter." "Marcus, Commander Thompson is fine. Or Marcus. But not, it doesn't matter." His voice was firm despite the pain he was clearly in. "Doc, after Kandahar, after you held my artery closed for 4 hours, you know what I did? I spent the next 10 years trying to be worthy of that sacrifice. Every mission, every op, every time I led men into danger, I asked myself if I was being the kind of leader who deserved to still be alive when better men had died." Maya felt her throat tighten. "You don't owe me anything." "I owe you everything. And so do the 23 men I've pulled out of situations they shouldn't have survived. Because you taught me what it means to never give up on someone, no matter how bad it looks." Thompson reached out, took her hand. His grip was weak, but determined. The ghost medic. That's what we called you. You'd appear out of nowhere, save lives that couldn't be saved, then disappear. We thought you were a legend, a story people told to make themselves feel better about the odds. I was just doing my job. Bullshit. Thompson's smile was gentle. You were doing what heroes do. And then you tried to retire from being a hero and discovered that the real world is sometimes crueler than war zones. A knock at the door interrupted them. Captain Rodriguez entered, tablet in hand, his expression grave. Commander, Colonel, I apologize for the interruption, but there's been a development. He looked at Maya. The hospital has called a press conference for 9 a.m. tomorrow. They're planning to announce that you've been appointed as the new Director of Trauma Services at Mercy General, effective immediately. Maya stood up. What? They're trying to control the narrative, Rodriguez said. The story leaked to the press. Social media is exploding. Videos from inside the hospital showing how staff treated you, recordings of conversations. Someone's been documenting everything and just released it all. The hospital is in full damage control mode. Thompson's expression turned predatory. Good. Let them squirm. There's more. Rodriguez pulled up something on his tablet, turned it to show Maya. Dr. Crawford has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Dr. Romano is being reviewed by the medical board, and 3 nurses have come forward claiming they were pressured to sabotage your work and document false errors in your charts. Maya's hands clenched into fists. They falsified my records. Systematically. Tyler Bennett has already resigned rather than face questioning, and Brittany Chen is claiming she was just following orders. Rodriguez looked disgusted. The hospital's legal team is offering you a settlement. 7 figures, full reinstatement, public apology. They want this to go away quietly. No, Maya said. Both men looked at her. No settlement, no reinstatement. I don't want their money or their apology. Maya's voice was steel. I want accountability. I want every person who participated in this investigated. And I want changes to their hiring and training protocols so this never happens to anyone else. Rodriguez nodded slowly. The Admiral thought you might say that. He's authorized full DoD cooperation with any investigation you want to pursue, and he's personally calling the hospital board of directors tonight to make his position clear. Which is? Thompson asked. That if Mercy General doesn't conduct a full, transparent investigation and implement real reforms, the Department of Defense will terminate its contract with them. That's 40% of their revenue. They can't survive without it. Maya walked to the window, looked out at the city lights. Somewhere down there, Crawford was probably calling his senator father, trying to save his career. Romano was probably crafting a defense that blamed everyone else. Tyler and Brittany were probably deleting texts and covering their tracks. I want to make a statement, Maya said quietly. Not to the press, to the staff. The nurses, the residents, the people who actually do the work. Can you arrange that? Rodriguez and Thompson exchanged glances. I can make that happen, Rodriguez said. When? Tomorrow morning, before the press conference. I want to talk to the people who watched what happened and said nothing. Doc, are you sure? Thompson asked. You don't owe them anything. No, I don't. But someone needs to tell them the truth. Maya turned back to face them. Because in 6 months, when the news cycle moves on and the lawyers finish their work, those same nurses and residents will still be there, still treating patients. And if nothing changes in their hearts, then nothing really changes at all. Rodriguez made notes on his tablet. I'll arrange it for 7 a.m. in the main conference room. Attendance mandatory for all emergency department staff. Thank you, Captain. Rodriguez left, and Maya sat back down next to Thompson's bed. You're going to give them grace, aren't you? Thompson said. After everything they did. I'm going to give them truth. What they do with it is their choice." Maya was quiet for a moment. You know what the worst part was? Not the insults, not the sabotage. It was watching good people do nothing. Nurses who knew better but stayed silent. Residents who saw what was happening but protected their careers instead of doing the right thing. That's what broke my heart. Not the cruelty of a few, but the silence of the many. That's why you have to speak tomorrow. Because silence is how good institutions become corrupt. Thompson shifted, trying to get comfortable. Will you do me a favor? Depends on the favor. When you talk to them tomorrow, tell them about Kandahar. Tell them what you did. Because they need to understand that the woman they dismissed is someone they should have been learning from. Maya shook her head. I'm not going to make it about me. Then make it about the next person, the next older nurse who gets hired, the next person who doesn't look like they belong in their narrow world. Make it about protecting them. Thompson's eyes were intense. You have power right now, Doc. Use it. Another knock. This time it was a Navy doctor, a captain with silver hair and kind eyes. Commander, I need to examine you and adjust your pain management. Colonel Washington, you're welcome to stay. Maya stood. I should go. Let you rest. Doc. Thompson caught her hand again. Thank you. For then, for now, for everything. Get some sleep, Marcus. That's an order. Yes, ma'am. Maya left the room, and in the hallway she found Admiral Hartley waiting, leaning on his cane, looking tired. Walk with me, Colonel, he said. They walked in silence to the elevator, rode down to the first floor, and exited into a quiet hallway away from the emergency department chaos. I made some calls, the Admiral said. Senator Thompson, the commander's father, is personally handling the DoD contract review. The Secretary of Defense is aware of the situation, and the Surgeon General of the United States is very interested in your plans for reform. I don't have plans for reform. I just want people to do better. That's the reform, Maya. Expecting better, demanding better. The Admiral stopped walking, turned to face her. I'm going to tell you something that might piss you off. You ready? Yes, sir. You should have fought back sooner. You should have told them who you were on day one. You should have used your rank and your record to demand respect instead of trying to earn it by being invisible. Maya felt anger flash through her. With respect, Admiral, I know what you're going to say. You shouldn't have to prove yourself. Your competence should speak for itself. Basic human dignity shouldn't require a military resume. You're absolutely right. The Admiral's expression softened. And the world should be fair and just and kind. But it isn't. And sometimes the only way to protect the next person is to stand up for yourself first, even when you shouldn't have to. So I should have what? Walked in wearing my medals? Demanded special treatment? No. But you could have walked in with your head up instead of trying to disappear. You could have corrected them the first time they disrespected you instead of the 100th time. The Admiral paused. I'm not blaming you for what they did. That's on them. But I am saying that you're more powerful than you've been acting, and power unused is power wasted. Maya absorbed that. What do you want from me, Admiral? I want you to stop hiding. The military needs people like you in advisory positions. The VA needs reform. Medical schools need to teach what you know, and hospitals across this country need to understand that diversity isn't just a checkbox. It's a strategic advantage. He smiled. Plus, I'm getting old, and I need someone to yell at administrators when they do stupid things. Interested? That sounds like a job offer. It's an opportunity to make a difference on a scale you never could in a single hospital or a single battlefield. Think about it. The Admiral handed her a business card. My direct line. Call me after tomorrow's meeting.
Let me know how it goes.
Maya took the card. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Just don't waste this moment. They gave you a platform tomorrow. Use it. The Admiral walked away, his cane tapping against the tile floor, and Maya was alone again. She checked her phone. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, 43 text messages. She scrolled through them. Most were reporters, some were lawyers, a few were old military contacts who'd heard the news, and one was from a number she didn't recognize. She opened the text. Colonel Washington, this is Dr. Marcus Lee. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say I'm sorry. I participated in something shameful, and I have no excuse. I'm resigning from Mercy General tomorrow. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that watching you today changed me. I'll do better. I have to do better. Thank you for the lesson, even though I learned it at your expense. Maya stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed a reply. Resignation is the easy path. Staying and fixing the culture that allowed this to happen is harder. Your choice what kind of doctor you want to be. She sent it before she could second-guess herself. Another text came through almost immediately, this one from Brittany Chen. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Maya deleted it without responding. Apologies without changed behavior were just words. She took the elevator back to the 4th floor, but instead of going to Thompson's room, she walked the halls. Nurses recognized her now, their eyes tracking her movement, whispers following in her wake. Maya ignored them. She found what she was looking for on the surgical floor. A young nurse, maybe 25, black like Maya, sitting alone in a break room with her head in her hands. Maya knocked softly on the door frame. The nurse looked up, her eyes red from crying. Sorry, I'm just taking a break, the nurse said quickly, standing up. I'll get back to... Sit, Maya said gently. I'm not here to check on you. I just wanted to know if you're okay. The nurse sat back down slowly, confused. I'm fine. No, you're not. And that's okay. Maya sat down across from her. What's your name? Jasmine. Jasmine Carter. How long have you worked here, Jasmine? 4 months. Jasmine's voice was barely a whisper. I heard what happened to you in the ER. I heard how they treated you, and I'm scared that's going to be me. Has anyone mistreated you? Jasmine hesitated. Little things. Comments about my hair. Questions about whether I really went to nursing school or if it was an affirmative action thing. Being assigned the worst patients, the hardest cases, then criticized when they don't go perfectly. Nothing I can prove, nothing I can report, just death by 1,000 cuts. Maya felt rage settle in her chest, cold and focused. What's your nursing supervisor's name? Please don't say anything. I need this job. I have student loans. I can't afford to. Jasmine. Maya's voice was firm but kind. Look at me. The young nurse met her eyes. Tomorrow morning, I'm speaking to the emergency department staff. But after that, I'm going to be talking to hospital administration about systemic changes. And I need you to do something for me. What? Document everything. Every comment. Every unfair assignment. Every microaggression. Dates, times, witnesses. Everything. Can you do that? What good will that do? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But silence guarantees nothing changes. Maya pulled out the Admiral's business card, wrote her new phone number on the back, and handed it to Jasmine. If it gets bad, if you feel unsafe, if you need help, you call me, day or night. Understand? Jasmine took the card with shaking hands. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. Because someone should have helped me. And because you deserve better than what they're giving you. Maya stood up. "You're going to be a great nurse, Jasmine. Don't let them convince you otherwise." She left before the young woman could respond, but Maya heard the sob of relief that broke loose behind her. Walking back through the hospital, Maya's phone rang again. This time she recognized the number. Her old commander from her first tour in Iraq, Colonel Sarah Chen, retired now and teaching at the Army War College. Maya answered. "Colonel Chen?" "Maya, I saw the news. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Liar." Chen's voice was warm despite the accusation. "You're never fine. You're either fighting or bleeding, and right now I'm betting it's both." Maya felt something break inside her chest, a release of pressure she hadn't known she was holding. "They broke me down, Sarah. For 3 weeks, they made me feel worthless, and I let them." "No, you survived them. There's a difference." Chen paused. "You know what you taught me in Fallujah? That surviving isn't the same as winning, but it's the prerequisite for winning. You survived. Now it's time to win." "How?" "By being yourself tomorrow. Not the invisible nurse they wanted you to be. Not the perfect military officer they're expecting now. Just you. Honest. Direct. Unmerciful with the truth." Chen's voice turned fierce. "You've earned the right to take up space, Maya. Stop apologizing for existing and start demanding that they rise to your level instead of pulling you down to theirs." "What if I can't?" "Then you're not the woman who held a soldier's artery closed for 4 hours while people were trying to kill her. And we both know that woman is still in there." They talked for another 20 minutes, Chen telling her stories about former soldiers they'd served with, updates on lives that had moved forward after war. It was exactly what Maya needed, a reminder that she wasn't alone, that she'd never been alone. When they hung up, Maya felt steadier. She returned to the hotel suite as midnight approached, ordered room service that she barely touched, stood at the window watching the city sleep. Tomorrow she would face the people who'd tried to break her. Tomorrow she would speak truth to the comfortable. Tomorrow she would decide what kind of person she wanted to be in this new life that had been forced upon her. But tonight, she let herself feel everything. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, the small flicker of something that might become hope. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from Rodriguez. 7 a.m., main conference room. 53 staff members confirmed attendance. Admiral Hartley will be present. DoD legal counsel will be recording for official records. The hospital's CEO will be there. "This is your moment, Colonel. Make it count." Maya typed back a single word. "Roger." She set her phone down, changed into sleep clothes the hotel had provided, and lay down on a bed more comfortable than anything she'd slept on in years. Sleep didn't come easy, but when it did, she didn't dream of war zones. She dreamed of a young nurse named Jasmine who deserved better. She dreamed of Marcus Thompson saluting her from his hospital bed. She dreamed of the invisible women working in hospitals and offices and schools across the country, doing extraordinary work while being treated as ordinary. And she dreamed of a world where that might change. Tomorrow she would start building that world, one truth at a time. Maya woke at 5 a.m., not because of an alarm, but because her body still ran on military time, even after 2 years of trying to forget. She showered, dressed in the clothes Rodriguez had sent to the hotel, simple black slacks and a navy blazer that made her look professional without trying too hard. Her hands shook as she buttoned the blazer. They always shook in the morning, worse before the coffee kicked in. She stared at herself in the mirror. 48 years old. Gray hair she'd stopped trying to hide, lines around her eyes from squinting into desert suns and fluorescent hospital lights. She looked tired. She looked her age. She looked exactly like the kind of person Crawford had dismissed as irrelevant. Good, Maya thought. Let them see exactly who they underestimated. The car arrived at 6:30. The same Marine driver, respectful silence during the 20-minute drive through Philadelphia streets, just beginning to wake up. When they pulled up to Mercy General, the news vans were already there, cameras setting up, reporters doing sound checks. Maya watched them through tinted windows. "They've been here since 4 a.m., ma'am," the driver said. "Vultures smelled blood." "They're just doing their job," Maya said quietly. "Same as us." 2 MPs met her at a side entrance, away from the cameras. They escorted her through back hallways to the main conference room, where Captain Rodriguez was waiting with coffee and what looked like genuine concern on his face. "How are you feeling, Colonel?" "Like I'm about to walk into an ambush without body armor." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "You've survived worse, and you're not alone in there. Admiral Hartley is already inside. So is the hospital CEO, the chief of staff, and the director of the board. They're nervous as hell." "Good, they should be." Maya took the coffee, black and strong. "How many staff confirmed?" 53. Every nurse, resident, and attending from the emergency department, except 3 who called in sick this morning. Tyler Bennett, Jessica Romano, and 1 other resident who I'm guessing is hoping this blows over. "It won't." Maya checked her watch. 6:45. "What about Crawford?" "Showed up 10 minutes ago, demanded to speak. The Admiral told him to sit down and shut up." Rodriguez's expression turned grim. "Fair warning, Colonel. Crawford brought his father. Senator Mitchell Crawford is in that room right now, probably planning to threaten lawsuits and call in favors." Maya felt ice settle in her stomach. A senator. Political power. The kind of power that could make problems disappear and make people like her pay for embarrassing the powerful. "Then I guess we'll see if truth matters more than power," Maya said. "One more thing." Rodriguez handed her a folder. 3 nurses came forward last night with sworn statements about the systematic harassment you experienced. Times, dates, witnesses. One of them recorded conversations where Crawford explicitly told staff to document false errors and make your life difficult until you quit. It's all in here. Maya opened the folder. Page after page of documented cruelty. Brittany Chen's statement was particularly detailed, describing how Romano had instructed her to befriend Maya, only to report back on anything that could be used against her. Tyler Bennett's resignation letter admitted to falsifying chart entries under Crawford's direction. "This is a conspiracy," Maya said quietly. "Not just bias, not just prejudice, an actual coordinated effort to drive me out." "Yes, ma'am. Which makes it criminal, not just unethical. The DoD legal team is recommending federal charges for fraud and potentially civil rights violations." Maya closed the folder. "Let's see what they have to say for themselves first." Rodriguez opened the door to the conference room. The conversation inside died instantly. The room was set up like a courtroom. At the front, a long table where Admiral Hartley sat next to a man in an expensive suit who had to be Senator Crawford. The hospital CEO, Henderson, sat on the other side, looking like he'd aged 20 years overnight. The chief of staff, Dr. Helen Park, was pale and rigid. The emergency department staff filled rows of chairs facing the front. Nurses Maya recognized from her 3 weeks of hell. Residents who'd participated in the betting pool. And there, in the back row, sitting as far from everyone else as possible, was Dr. Ethan Crawford. He didn't look arrogant anymore. He looked cornered. Maya walked to the front of the room. 53 pairs of eyes tracked her movement. She set the folder down on the table, but didn't sit. She stood, her hands clasped in front of her to hide the tremor, and looked at each person in turn. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. Finally, Admiral Hartley spoke. "Thank you all for coming. We're here because of events that occurred in this hospital over the past 3 weeks. culminating in yesterday's incident where Colonel Maya Washington saved Commander Thompson's life after being told to stay silent and observe. Colonel Washington has requested this opportunity to address the staff directly before any official proceedings begin. The floor is yours, Colonel. Maya nodded her thanks. She didn't move from where she stood. She just looked at them. "My name is Maya Elizabeth Washington," she began, her voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the room. "For the past 3 weeks, you knew me as the new nurse who moved too slow, whose hands shook, who didn't fit in your elite department. Some of you mocked me. Some of you sabotaged my work. Some of you participated in a betting pool about when I would fail. And some of you just watched it happen and said nothing." A nurse in the third row looked down at her hands. 2 residents shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to tell you a story, and then I'm going to ask you a question. That's all." Maya paused. August 2019, Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. I was a captain in the Army Medical Corps, embedded with a Navy SEAL team providing medical support. We were on a routine patrol when our convoy hit an IED. The explosion killed 2 soldiers instantly and critically wounded 4 others. She could see them leaning forward now, engaged despite themselves. One of the wounded was a 20-year-old corpsman named Marcus Thompson. His femoral artery was severed. He was bleeding out on the sand while insurgents opened fire from the ridgeline. By every tactical standard, we should have left him. We should have moved to cover, called for extraction, and accepted the loss. That's what the protocols said. That's what would have kept the rest of us safe. Maya's hands tightened, but I didn't follow protocol. I put my fingers inside his leg and held his artery closed. For 4 hours. While bullets hit the vehicle behind me, while the temperature reached 120 degrees, while my back screamed and my hands cramped, and every part of my body begged me to let go. "Why didn't you?" The question came from a young nurse Maya didn't recognize. She looked genuinely curious, not challenging. "Because he was a human being who deserved every chance to live. Because protocol doesn't account for the value of a single life. Because sometimes the right thing is harder than the easy thing." Maya's voice remained steady. "Marcus Thompson survived. He went on to become a SEAL team commander. He saved 23 other lives over the next 10 years. Lives that wouldn't exist if I'd followed protocol and let him die." She could see it clicking in their heads. The man from yesterday, the SEAL commander, the one who'd saluted her. The nerve damage from holding that position for 4 hours is why my hands shake. It's permanent. It's never going away. And I'd make the same choice tomorrow because that's what it means to value people over policy. Senator Crawford stood up. "This is very moving, but I don't see what it has to do with—" "Sit down, Senator." Admiral Hartley's voice was steel. "Colonel Washington has the floor." The senator sat, his face flushed with anger. Maya turned her attention to Crawford in the back row. "Dr. Crawford, you told me I didn't belong in an elite department. You said my shaking hands meant I was incompetent. You built a case to fire me based on falsified records and coordinated harassment. And yesterday, you almost let a man die because your ego wouldn't let you listen to someone you'd decided was beneath you." Crawford started to stand, but his father grabbed his arm, pulled him back down. "Here's what I want you to understand," Maya continued. "I don't care about your apology. I don't care about your excuses. What I care about is this. You had the power to destroy my career, to make my life miserable, to use institutional authority to crush someone who couldn't fight back. And you used that power. Not because I was incompetent, not because I was dangerous, but because I didn't fit your image of what medicine should look like." She turned to address the whole room. "How many of you participated because you genuinely believed I was incompetent? Raise your hands." No one moved. How many of you participated because Dr. Crawford told you to, because you wanted to fit in, because it was easier to go along than to stand up? Slowly, painfully, about 15 hands rose. Thank you for your honesty. Maya's voice softened slightly. Now here's my question. The question I need you to answer for yourselves, not for me. If I had been a white man with shaking hands and a slow pace, would you have treated me the same way? The silence was crushing. A resident in the front row, a young Asian woman, spoke up. No, we wouldn't have. And I'm ashamed that it took this to make me see it. Me too, another voice said, an older nurse. I watched what was happening, and I told myself it wasn't my business, that I was just trying to keep my head down and do my job. But silence is participation. I participated. More voices joined in. Confessions, admissions, the dam breaking. Crawford shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. I will not sit here and be accused of racism by someone who can't even— Shut your mouth. The voice came from Senator Crawford, shocking everyone. The senator stood, his face a mixture of anger and shame. Ethan, shut your mouth right now before you make this worse. Dad, you can't seriously— I said, shut up. The senator turned to Maya, and his expression was complicated. Colonel Washington, my son is an arrogant fool who believed his last name made him untouchable. He was wrong. I've spent the last 12 hours reviewing the evidence Captain Rodriguez provided, the falsified records, the coordinated harassment, the systematic effort to drive you out of this hospital. It's indefensible. Ethan Crawford's face went white. You're supposed to be protecting me. I'm supposed to be your father, which means teaching you that actions have consequences. The senator looked at Admiral Hartley. I won't interfere with any investigation, criminal or civil. My son made his choices. He can live with the results. Dad, what the hell? You almost killed a SEAL commander because you were too arrogant to listen to someone who knew better than you. You falsified medical records. You led a campaign of harassment against a decorated war hero. Ethan, I can't protect you from this. I won't protect you from this. The senator's voice broke slightly. I taught you to be confident. I didn't teach you to be cruel. That's on you. The room was frozen. Father and son staring at each other across a divide that had just become uncrossable. Finally, Ethan Crawford stood. I resign, effective immediately. You can all go to hell. He walked out. The door slammed behind him. His father sat back down heavily. I apologize, Colonel Washington, for my son, for not teaching him better, for whatever role I played in creating someone who could do what he did to you. Maya studied the senator, saw genuine remorse there, mixed with political calculation. He was protecting himself, yes, but he was also genuinely horrified. Senator, apologies without changed behavior are just words. If you mean it, use your influence to push legislation that protects healthcare workers from exactly this kind of harassment. Make it federal law that falsifying medical records is a felony. Fund oversight programs. That's how you apologize. The senator nodded slowly. I'll start drafting it today. Henderson, the CEO, cleared his throat. Colonel Washington, on behalf of Mercy General Hospital, I want to offer you— No, Maya cut him off. I don't want your job. I don't want your money. What I want is for you to implement real changes. Mandatory bias training that actually works, not checkbox compliance. Anonymous reporting systems for harassment with real consequences. Diverse hiring panels. And most importantly, a culture where people are valued for their competence, not their credentials or their appearance. We can do all of that, Henderson said quickly. We want to make this right. Then prove it. Because I'm going to be watching. The DOD is going to be watching. The press is going to be watching. And if I hear about one more nurse being treated the way I was treated, I will personally make it my mission to shut this place down. Doctor. Park spoke for the first time. Colonel Washington, you mentioned you don't want a position here. But would you be willing to consult? To help us rebuild the culture? We need someone who understands both medicine and leadership. Maya was quiet for a moment. I'll think about it. But only if you fire every person who participated in falsifying records. Not suspended, not reprimanded. Fired. Because if you tolerate that, you tolerate anything. Done, Park said immediately. And I want Jasmine Carter, the surgical floor nurse, transferred to the emergency department with full support and mentorship. She's talented, and she deserves a chance without harassment. Who's Jasmine Carter? Henderson asked. Exactly, Maya said. You don't even know the names of the people being hurt in your own hospital. Figure it out. Admiral Hartley stood. I believe Colonel Washington has said what she needed to say. Unless there are questions? A hand went up, the young nurse who'd asked the earlier question. Colonel, what should we have done? When we saw what was happening to you, what should we have done? Maya looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw genuine desire to learn, not defensiveness. You should have said something. Even if it was just, that's not okay, in a quiet moment. Even if it was just refusing to participate. Even if it was reporting it anonymously. Silence protects the powerful and abandons the vulnerable. Every single time. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. But you're asking now. You're here. You're listening. That's a start. Don't waste it. The meeting ended 20 minutes later with commitments to reform, promises of investigation, and a heaviness that Maya hoped would translate into actual change. As people filed out, several nurses approached Maya, apologized, thanked her, asked for forgiveness. Maya accepted some apologies, questioned others, and made it clear that forgiveness was earned through changed behavior, not requested through words. Marcus Lee was among the last to leave. He stopped in front of Maya, his eyes red. I got your text about staying and fixing things instead of resigning. I'm going to try. I'm going to do better. Good. This hospital needs doctors who can admit when they're wrong. I was so wrong. About everything. And I'm sorry. Then prove you're sorry by being better. That's all anyone can do. When the room finally emptied, it was just Maya, Admiral Hartley, Captain Rodriguez, and Senator Crawford. The senator approached carefully. Colonel, I meant what I said. About the legislation. Can I call on you to testify when the time comes? If it helps prevent this from happening to someone else, yes. Thank you. He paused. My son is going to face consequences. I want you to know I won't interfere with that. Your son is an adult who made adult choices. What happens to him now is justice, not revenge. The senator left, and Maya was alone with the two military officers. You did good work in there, Hartley said. Changed some minds, scared the hell out of the administration, set the stage for real reform. We'll see if it lasts. It will if you stay involved. That consultant position Park offered, you should take it. I should probably process the fact that I'm not invisible anymore before I commit to anything. Rodriguez smiled. Colonel, you were never invisible. You were just hiding. There's a difference. Maybe. Maya felt exhausted suddenly, drained. Can I go see Commander Thompson now? Make sure he's recovering properly? Of course. And then you're taking the rest of the day off. That's an order. Hartley's expression softened. "You've been fighting for 3 weeks straight. Take a breath. The war's over." Maya nodded, but she knew better. This particular battle was over, but the larger war, the one against systemic bias and institutional cruelty, that war never ended. It just changed battlefields. She left the conference room and made her way to Thompson's floor. The MPs let her through without question. Inside, Thompson was awake, watching news coverage of the story on his tablet. "You're famous, Doc," he said. "Trending on Twitter." Someone recorded audio from the meeting and posted it. "You've got 3 million views." "That's horrifying." "That's impact." Thompson set the tablet down. "How do you feel?" "Like I just fought a battle without weapons." "But you won." "Did I? Or did I just force them to hide their prejudice better?" Maya sat down, suddenly aware of how tired she was. "I don't know if I changed anything, Marcus. I don't know if I made a difference or just made myself feel better." "You made a difference to that nurse you told Park to transfer, Jasmine. She called the hospital this morning and cried when they told her about the new position." Thompson's smile was warm. "You made a difference to every person in that room who heard you speak and realized they'd been complicit. You made a difference to the next person who gets hired here, because now there's consequences for harassment." "Maybe. Definitely. And Doc, you made a difference to me. Again. You showed me that heroism isn't just about charging into gunfire. Sometimes it's about standing your ground when everyone wants you to disappear. That's courage too." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher. She taught me that saving lives means more than just stopping the bleeding. It means fighting for the kind of world where fewer people bleed in the first place." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the monitoring equipment beeping softly, the Philadelphia sun climbing higher in the sky outside the window. Finally, Thompson spoke again. "What are you going to do now? Take the consultant position? Go back to active duty? Retire to a beach somewhere?" "I have no idea," Maya admitted. "For 3 weeks, I just wanted to survive each shift. I didn't think beyond that. And now suddenly I have options and attention and people expecting me to have answers. I don't know what I want." "Then figure it out. You've earned that. The right to choose your own path instead of having it chosen for you." Thompson shifted in bed, wincing slightly. "But whatever you choose, don't disappear again. The world needs you visible." "I'll think about it." "Good. Now get out of here. Go sleep. Eat something that's not hospital food. Be a human instead of a soldier for a few hours." Maya stood, squeezed his hand gently. "Heal up, Commander. That's an order." "Yes, ma'am." She left the hospital through the same side entrance, avoiding the press that was still camped out front. The Marine driver took her back to the hotel, where she had every intention of sleeping for 12 hours straight. Instead, she found herself sitting at the desk, laptop open, writing. She wrote about what it felt like to be invisible, about the 1,000 small cuts of daily microaggressions, about the choice between fighting back and staying silent, about the cost of both. She wrote for 2 hours, and when she finished, she had an op-ed article. She sent it to the Washington Post with a simple note. "If you think this is worth publishing, publish it. If not, that's fine too." Then she finally let herself sleep and dreamed of a hospital where competence mattered more than credentials, where dignity was given freely instead of earned through suffering, where the invisible were finally seen. It was just a dream. But dreams, Maya had learned, were where all real change started. Maya woke to her phone vibrating across the nightstand like an angry hornet. She'd slept for 14 hours straight. The kind of deep, dreamless sleep that came after prolonged stress finally released its grip. The phone showed 47 missed calls, and a number she didn't recognize currently calling for the third time in a row. She answered. "This is Maya." "Colonel Washington, this is Linda Hernandez from the Washington Post. We read your piece. We want to run it on tomorrow's front page, above the fold. Can we fact-check some details with you?" Maya sat up, rubbing her eyes. "You want to publish it? I sent that at 2 in the morning. I figured you'd delete it." "Delete it? Colonel, this is the most powerful thing I've read in 10 years of journalism. It's raw, it's honest, and it's exactly what this country needs to hear right now. We've already got 3 senators calling asking for advance copies. Can you talk now?" They talked for an hour. Hernandez was thorough, checking every fact, every date, every detail of Maya's service record and what had happened at Mercy General. When they finished, Hernandez said something that made Maya's chest tighten. "You know this is going to change your life, right? Once this publishes, you won't be anonymous anymore. You'll be a symbol. People will expect things from you. Some will hate you. Some will worship you. Neither group will see you as just human. Are you ready for that?" "No," Maya said honestly. "But I stopped being ready for things a long time ago. Now I just do what needs doing and deal with the consequences." "Good answer. The piece runs tomorrow at 6 a.m. Prepare yourself." Maya hung up and checked her other messages. Most were reporters. Several were lawyers offering to represent her pro bono. 3 were hate messages, calling her a race baiter and a liar. One was from Admiral Hartley, asking her to call him immediately. She called. "Colonel, I just got word from the Secretary of Defense. He wants to meet with you. Tomorrow, Pentagon. He's putting together a task force on discrimination in military and VA medical facilities, and he wants you to lead it." Maya felt dizzy. "Admiral, I'm not qualified to—" "You're the most qualified person in the country. You've lived it. You've survived it. You've got the military credibility and the medical expertise. And after tomorrow's Post article, you'll have the public platform." Hartley paused. "This is bigger than Mercy General, Maya. This is systemic. And you're in a position to actually fix it. Don't waste that." "I need time to think." "You have 12 hours. Meetings at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Car will pick you up at 0700. Wear your uniform if you still have it." "I can't just—" "Yes, you can. And you will. Because this is your mission now, whether you ask for it or not. Welcome back to the fight, Colonel." He hung up before she could argue. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process. Yesterday, she'd been a struggling nurse about to get fired. Today, she was being asked to lead a federal task force. The whiplash was nauseating. Her phone rang again. Thompson this time. "Doc, you awake? Good. Get over here. We need to talk." "Marcus, I just woke up. I need to shower, eat." "Food's handled. I had the kitchen send up enough for both of us. And you can shower after. This is important. Please." The urgency in his voice pulled her out of bed. She dressed quickly, caught a cab to the hospital, and made her way to Thompson's room. The MPs waved her through without question. Inside, Thompson was sitting up, looking stronger despite the bandages still wrapped around his torso. On the rolling table beside his bed was enough food for 4 people. "Eat," he ordered. "Then we talk." Maya realized she was starving. She grabbed a plate, loaded it with eggs and toast, and ate while Thompson watched with satisfaction. "Better?" he asked when she'd cleared 2 plates. "Better. Now what's so urgent?" Thompson pulled out his tablet, pulled up a video. This went viral overnight. 20 million views. Watch. It was security footage from the hospital, but edited together with audio from the staff meeting. Maya watched herself perform the needle decompression on Thompson, watched Crawford try to stop her, watched Thompson salute her. Then it cut to audio of her speech about Kandahar, about holding his artery closed, about choosing people over protocol. The comments section was on fire. Thousands of people sharing their own stories of being underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. Nurses talking about being bullied by doctors, patients talking about being ignored when they knew something was wrong. Veterans talking about coming home and being treated like they didn't matter. "Doc, you started something," Thompson said quietly. "You gave people permission to talk about what they've been swallowing for years. That's power. That's terrifying. It's both. But you can't put this back in the box. So the question is, what are you going to do with it?" Maya set down the tablet. "The DoD wants me to lead a task force. The Post is publishing my op-ed tomorrow. And I still don't know if I'm the right person for any of this. I'm not a leader, Marcus. I'm a medic. I fix immediate problems. I don't do policy and politics." "Bullshit." Thompson's voice was sharp. "You led men in combat. You made life and death decisions under fire. You stood up to institutional power and won. That's leadership. The only difference is the battlefield changed. What if I fail? What if I take this on and I'm not good enough, and I let down everyone who's counting on me?" "Then you fail, and you get up and try again. Same as you did in Kandahar when the extraction was delayed. Same as you did at Mercy General when they tried to break you. Doc, you don't get to hide anymore. Too many people need you visible." Before Maya could respond, there was a knock. Rodriguez entered, followed by someone Maya didn't expect. Jasmine Carter, the young nurse Maya had talked to 2 nights ago. "Colonel, Ms. Carter asked to speak with you. I hope that's okay?" "Of course." Maya stood, gestured to a chair. "Jasmine, are you all right?" The young nurse's eyes were red but determined. "I wanted to thank you. They transferred me to emergency like you asked, and Dr. Park personally met with me to apologize for what I'd been experiencing. She assigned me a mentor, gave me access to the Employee Assistance Program, and told me if I experience any more harassment to report it directly to her." Jasmine's voice broke. "You did that. You didn't even know me, and you fought for me." "You deserved someone to fight for you." "I also wanted to tell you something. After your video went viral, 12 other nurses came forward. Black women, Latino women, Asian women, all with stories like mine, like yours. The hospital is conducting a full review of the entire department." Jasmine pulled out a folder. "And we put this together. It's a proposal for a peer support network for nurses who experience discrimination. We want to call it the Dusty Network, after your call sign, if you'll let us." Maya took the folder, flipped through pages of detailed planning, support groups, anonymous reporting systems, legal resources, mentorship programs. It was comprehensive and thoughtful, and exactly what was needed. "You did all this in 2 days? You gave us hope. We gave each other action." Jasmine smiled through tears. "Is it okay to use your name?" Maya felt something shift in her chest, a weight she'd been carrying for 2 years, the weight of trying to be invisible, suddenly lifting. "Yes, use it, and I'll help however I can." After Jasmine left, Maya sat back down. Thompson was grinning. "Still think you're not a leader?" "Shut up." "Make me, Colonel." They both laughed, and it felt good. Normal. Like the friendship they'd built in a war zone had survived the transition to peace. Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Colonel, I hate to interrupt, but you have a visitor. She's waiting in the consultation room down the hall. She says it's urgent." "Who is it?" "Dr. Jessica Romano. She says she needs to apologize in person." Maya's jaw tightened. "Tell her I'm not interested." "I figured you'd say that. But Colonel, she's not alone. She brought 19 other people from the emergency department. They're all asking for 5 minutes of your time." Maya looked at Thompson, who shrugged. "Your call, Doc. But sometimes the hardest thing is also the right thing." Maya stood. 5 minutes. That's all. The consultation room was packed. Romano stood at the front, looking nothing like the confident doctor who'd mocked Maya 3 weeks ago. She looked small, defeated. Behind her were nurses and residents, all looking uncomfortable. "Colonel Washington," Romano started, her voice shaking. "I know I don't deserve your time. I know an apology can't undo what I did. But I needed to say it anyway, to your face, with witnesses. I was cruel. I was prejudiced. I participated in systematic harassment because it made me feel powerful to punch down. And I'm ashamed." "Okay," Maya said. "Is that all?" "No. I also wanted you to know that I've enrolled in bias training. Real training, not the hospital's checkbox version. I'm seeing a therapist to understand why I felt threatened by you. And I've resigned from Mercy General." That surprised Maya. "You resigned?" "I can't stay somewhere I caused so much damage. It wouldn't be fair to you, to Jasmine, to any nurse who has to wonder if I've really changed or if I'm just performing contrition." Romano pulled out an envelope. "This is a list of every nurse I've mistreated in my 8 years here. 43 names. I'm contacting each of them personally to apologize and to tell them that what I did was wrong and had nothing to do with their competence." Maya took the envelope. 43 names. 43 people who'd suffered while Romano climbed the ladder. "What are you going to do now?" Maya asked. "I don't know. Maybe work at a community clinic where I can actually help people instead of just serving my ego. Maybe I'll be terrible at it, but I have to try to be better than I was." Romano met Maya's eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you changed me, even though I didn't deserve the lesson." Maya studied her, saw genuine remorse there, mixed with uncertainty about who she was without the armor of arrogance. "Dr. Romano, the fact that you're here, the fact that you're trying, that matters. Not to me, because you're right, you don't deserve my forgiveness yet. But it matters to the next person you interact with. Be better for them." "I will. I promise I will." One by one, the other staff members approached, apologized, shared what they were doing differently. Some were genuine. Some were clearly motivated by fear of consequences. Maya accepted all of it with the same measured grace, making it clear that words meant nothing without changed actions. When they'd all left, Maya returned to Thompson's room, exhausted. "How do you do this?" she asked. "How do you carry the weight of people's expectations and not collapse?" "You share the weight. You build a team. You accept that you can't fix everything, but you fix what you can." Thompson shifted in bed. "And you remember why you're fighting. Not for the people who hurt you, for the people who come after. For Jasmine and the 12 nurses who came forward. For every kid who joins the military and deserves to be treated with dignity. For everyone who's been made to feel invisible." "That's a lot of people." "Yeah, it is. Good thing you're stubborn." Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Colonel Washington, this is Senator Mitchell Crawford. I've submitted draft legislation for the Protection of Healthcare Workers Act. Would appreciate your input before it goes to committee. Also, my son has checked into a psychiatric treatment facility. He's facing his demons. Wanted you to know." Maya showed the text to Thompson. "Are you going to help him with the legislation?" "Probably. Not for him. For the people it will protect." Maya set her phone down. "I'm going to the Pentagon tomorrow, meeting with the Secretary of Defense." "I know. The Admiral told me. I also know you're scared. Terrified. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. Just don't let it paralyze you." Thompson reached out, took her hand. "Doc, you've been running from your power for 2 years, trying to be small, trying to disappear. But small doesn't suit you. Invisible doesn't suit you. It's time to take up space and make them deal with it. Maya squeezed his hand. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. That night, Maya sat in her hotel room and did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She took out her dress uniform, the one she'd kept in a box in her closet. She laid it out on the bed, the jacket with its silver oak leaves, the ribbons that told the story of her service, the patches that marked the units she'd served with. She tried it on. It still fit, though it was tighter across the shoulders than she remembered. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she'd almost forgotten. Captain Washington. Colonel Washington. Dusty. The ghost medic. Her phone rang. The Washington Post again. Colonel, we're getting pushback. 3 lawmakers are threatening to sue if we run your piece. They're saying it's defamatory, that it will damage reputations, that you can't prove the systematic nature of what you experienced. Do you believe my story? Maya asked. Every word. Then run it. Let them sue. I've got documentation, witnesses, and truth on my side. They've got lawyers and hurt feelings. I'll take those odds. Hernandez laughed. I like you, Colonel. The piece runs at 6 a.m. Brace yourself. Maya hung up and looked at herself in the mirror one more time. The woman looking back wasn't invisible anymore, wasn't trying to hide. She stood straight, shoulders back, chin up, ready for whatever came next. Her phone buzzed one last time, a text from a number she recognized now. Jasmine. Colonel, 12 became 30. 30 nurses want to join the Dusty Network. We're not invisible anymore. Thank you for showing us how to fight. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, still in her uniform, and let herself feel everything. The fear, the hope, the weight of responsibility, the lightness of no longer carrying shame. She thought about the young soldier in the photograph, grinning in the Afghan desert. She thought about the invisible nurse who'd walked through Mercy General's doors 3 weeks ago. She thought about who she was becoming. Neither of those people, but something forged from both. Tomorrow, she'd meet with the Secretary of Defense. Tomorrow, her story would go public on a national scale. Tomorrow, she'd step into a role she'd never asked for, but couldn't refuse. But tonight, she was just Maya. Greetings in a hotel room, wearing a uniform that still fit, remembering what it felt like to matter. The next morning arrived with the precision of a military operation. The car picked her up at 7 a.m. sharp. The driver was different this time, a Navy chief with 3 rows of ribbons who nodded respect when he saw her uniform. They drove in silence through Washington, D.C. traffic, past monuments and memorials, finally arriving at the Pentagon. Maya had been here before, years ago, but it felt different now. Then she'd been one of thousands. Now she was being escorted to the E-Ring, the outer corridor where the highest-ranking officials had offices. Secretary of Defense Marcus Williams was 58, a former Marine general with a reputation for cutting through bureaucratic nonsense. He stood when Maya entered his office, came around his desk, and shook her hand with genuine warmth. Colonel Washington, thank you for coming. I read your Washington Post piece at 5 a.m. this morning. Couldn't sleep after. Kept thinking about my daughter, who's a Navy nurse, and wondering if she's experiencing what you experienced. Sir, I hope she's not, but statistics suggest she probably is. Exactly, which is why I need your help. Williams gestured to a chair, sat down across from her rather than behind his desk. We have a problem, Colonel. A systemic problem that we've been ignoring because it's complicated and uncomfortable and threatens powerful people. Discrimination in military and VA medical facilities. Against women, against minorities, against anyone who doesn't fit the traditional mold. And it's costing us talent expertise, and lives. I'm aware, sir. I'm forming a task force to address it. Full authority to investigate, recommend changes, and implement reforms across all branches and VA facilities. I want you to lead it. Maya had prepared herself for this moment, but hearing it still took her breath away. Sir, I'm not a politician. I don't know how to navigate. I don't want a politician. I want a warrior who gives a damn about doing the right thing. I've got plenty of politicians. What I need is someone who understands the problem from the inside, who has the credibility to speak truth to power, and who can't be intimidated into backing down. Williams leaned forward. Colonel, you stood up to institutional power at Mercy General and won. You've already proven you can do this. Now I'm asking you to do it on a larger scale. What kind of authority would I have? Full investigative powers, access to all personnel records, ability to recommend terminations, policy changes, and criminal prosecution where warranted. You'll report directly to me, which means you bypass the normal chain of command. And you'll have the full resources of the DoD behind you. Maya felt her pulse quicken. That's going to make me a lot of enemies, sir. Good. If you're not making enemies, you're not doing it right. Williams smiled. I'm not going to lie to you, Colonel. This will be hard. People will fight you every step of the way. They'll call you a troublemaker, a diversity hire, someone with an agenda. They'll try to discredit you, intimidate you, make you quit. Can you handle that? Maya thought about Crawford's face when she'd saved Thompson's life, thought about Romano's cruelty, thought about 3 weeks of systematic harassment designed to break her, thought about Jasmine and the 30 nurses who were finding their voices. Yes, sir, I can handle it. Good. You start Monday. Office here in the Pentagon, staff of your choosing, budget to be determined but substantial. And, Colonel? Williams's expression turned fierce. Make them uncomfortable. Make them squirm. Make them understand that the days of hiding behind rank and tradition are over. Change the culture, or I'll change the personnel, whatever it takes. Understood, sir. They talked for another hour about specifics, about the scope of the investigation, about the political landscape Maya would be navigating. When they finished, Williams walked her to the door personally. One more thing, Colonel. Your article this morning? It's already been read by over 5 million people. The president called me at 6:30 asking about you. You're not anonymous anymore. You're a symbol whether you wanted to be or not. Use that platform wisely. Maya left the Pentagon in a daze. The car took her back to the hospital where Thompson was being prepared for transfer to Walter Reed. She found him dressed in sweats, the bandages less bulky now, looking more like the warrior he was and less like a patient. How'd it go? He asked. I'm leading a DoD task force to investigate discrimination in military medicine. I start Monday. Thompson's grin was huge. Hell yeah, Doc. You're going to burn that corruption down. Or I'm going to crash and burn trying. Either way, you're fighting. That's what matters. Thompson stood carefully, winced, but didn't sit back down. They're moving me to Walter Reed this afternoon, but before I go, I wanted to give you something. He pulled out a small wooden box from his bag, opened it. Inside was a military challenge coin, but not standard issue. This one was custom, with the seal trident on one side and Ghost Medic, Kandahar 2019 engraved on the other. The team had these made. Every SEAL who served with you got one. We've been carrying them for years, hoping we'd find you someday to give you yours. Thompson placed it in her hand. You saved my life twice, Doc. But you also taught me what it means to be worth saving. Thank you. Maya's vision blurred with tears. Marcus, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me you won't stop fighting. For yourself. For the Jasmines and the Romanos who need to change. For everyone who comes after. Promise me. "I promise." They hugged carefully, mindful of his injuries, and Maya felt the weight of expectation settle on her shoulders. But it didn't feel crushing anymore. It felt like purpose. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of a congressional committee, presenting findings from the task force's initial investigation. The numbers were damning. 43% of female service members in medical roles reported experiencing discrimination. 67% of minority nurses reported systematic harassment. And documentation showed that complaints were routinely dismissed or buried. The recommendations were comprehensive: mandatory bias training with teeth, independent oversight boards, criminal penalties for falsifying medical records, protected status for whistleblowers, and funding for support networks like the Dusty Network, which now had chapters at 17 military hospitals. Senator Crawford sat on the committee, and when it was his turn to question Maya, he smiled. "Colonel Washington, some have criticized this task force as an overreach, as political correctness run amok. What do you say to that?" Maya looked directly at the cameras, knowing millions were watching. "Senator, I say that excellence requires diversity, that institutional prejudice kills patients and destroys talent, that we can either change the culture or watch the best and brightest walk away. And I say that if demanding dignity for all service members is political correctness, then I'm guilty as charged, and proud of it." The gallery erupted in applause. The committee chairman had to call for order twice. Maya's testimony became a viral sensation. Her task force's recommendations were implemented across all branches within a year. Mercy General became a model for hospital reform, with Dr. Park leading a cultural transformation that other institutions studied and copied. Ethan Crawford never practiced medicine again, but he did complete treatment and eventually became an advocate for mental health support for physicians, using his own fall from grace as a cautionary tale about unchecked ego. Jessica Romano worked at a community clinic in North Philadelphia, treating uninsured patients and teaching medical students about humility. She never fully escaped her past, but she spent every day trying to earn redemption through service. And Jasmine Carter became the director of the Dusty Network, expanding it beyond military medicine to civilian hospitals, creating safe spaces for healthcare workers across the country. Maya herself never went back to being invisible. She served 3 years on the task force, then transitioned to teaching at Johns Hopkins, training the next generation of military physicians. She spoke at conferences, advised hospital boards, and never stopped fighting for the people society tried to overlook. On the wall of her office hung 2 photographs, one of a young soldier grinning in the Afghan desert, the other of an older woman in a hospital conference room, standing tall, speaking truth to power. Between them hung the challenge coin from Thompson, a reminder that being worth saving meant making yourself worthy of the sacrifice by fighting for others. Maya Washington had spent 2 years trying to disappear, to be invisible, to avoid the weight of expectation and the burden of being seen. And she'd learned the hardest lesson of her life, that visibility wasn't a burden, it was a responsibility. That power unused was power wasted. That silence protected only the comfortable while abandoning the vulnerable. And that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was refuse to hide, even when hiding was easier, safer, more comfortable. She'd been the ghost medic, appearing from nowhere to save lives, then disappearing into legend. But ghosts, Maya learned, couldn't change the world. Only the living could do that, standing in the light, refusing to be silent, demanding better not just for themselves, but for everyone who came after. The invisible woman was gone forever, and, in her place, stood someone who would never stop fighting, never stop speaking, never stop insisting that every person deserved dignity, respect, and the chance to prove their worth. Not because of their rank or their record or their skin color, or their age, but because they were human, and humanity itself was worth fighting for. That was the lesson Maya Washington carried from the battlefield to the hospital to the halls of power, and it was the lesson she would spend the rest of her life teaching to anyone willing to learn. The fight wasn't over. It would never be over. But for the first time in 2 years, Maya wasn't running from it anymore. She was leading it. And that made all the difference. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.